All right, guys, it's Mrs. Davy here. I'm going to be introducing you to our skills and vocabulary for our next few weeks. One of the first things I want to start with is our essential question. This week, when we get through all our stories, we are going to be answering the question, why do we need government? So there's a little picture there of our three branches of government. We are going to be synthesizing and using multiple texts to answer this question at the end of our unit here. So make sure you are thinking about that as we read our stories. To start off with our skills, we're going to be working on a few different things this week. We are going to dive into cause and effect. We've touched on this a little bit, but I do think we need a little bit of a review with it. So cause and effect is a text structure, and authors use text structure to organize the information that they write in a nonfiction work. A cause is going to be why something happens, and an effect is what happens because of that. So if you take a look at the picture off to the right here, we have some rain. Because it rained, the flowers grew. So that's a good thing. Cause and effect doesn't always have to be a negative thing. It can be good as well. Some signal words are right here. So, as a result, because, therefore, consequently, due to, which caused. If you see those, you're usually going to be reading something that has to do with cause and effect. So that's what we're going to look for in our texts this week. Next, right here, we will also explain why an author uses reasons and evidence to support their points. And we're going to be able to explain events and procedures to show that we know what's happening in what we're reading and why those things are happening. As we start our new stories, your teacher will be telling you a little bit more about the genres, but we are going to be reading narrative nonfiction and expository texts. Moving on, we have some important vocabulary words. I'm going to go over each of those, explain the picture, and then we'll write them in a sentence again. So we have an amendment. An amendment is a formal change made according to official procedures. We read earlier that the right to vote was an amendment. We talked about that with women's rights. They added an amendment in so that women can now vote. Commitment is a sense of obligation towards something. If you make a promise to someone, you are going to do something that you intend on doing, you feel obligated, or that you need to do it. A compromise, that's kind of a tough one. That one's going to reach an agreement by having each side give up part of its demands. So this picture right here, you want something, I may want something else, but we're both going to try and get a little bit of what we want so that we both feel happy about that. We might not get everything we want, but we'll get part of it. A democracy is a government that is run by the people who live under it. So all these people right here elected this guy right here. They were the ones that are picking and choosing who their leader is. Eventually is another one of our words. That means in the end or finally. So I put a finish line because that means in the end of a race or at the end when you finally finish something. Legislation is laws that are made or passed. So I have kind of some columns here, kind of what looks like a courtroom entrance. And then this here is a little law document. So they make those and pass those laws maybe in this little area here. Privilege is a different one. Privilege means a special right or benefit that's held by a certain group of people. So these three dudes over here are playing some trash basketball. The first guy here has the privilege here of being closest. His is going to be the easiest to shoot. This guy back here, he doesn't have so much of a privilege because he has to get his all the way over here. Our last word is version. A version is an account given in a particular way. I know my picture doesn't totally match up, but I wanted to show you that these are different versions of witch hats. So you could have a black one, a purple one, an orange one, a green one. Some have stripes, some have bigger bottoms, some have longer tops, but a version is just a different kind of something. So I'm going to use these in a real quick sentence since you guys told me to right here. So the word amendment, we could say that one of the amendments to the Constitution gave women the right to vote. So our word there to show our vocabulary, I want to get rid of that underline, is the word amendments. Our second sentence is using the word commitment. So we could say the two boys made a commitment to practice their song for the talent show. They are committed or making an obligation to go ahead and do that practice so that they can get better. So there's your word commitment. Compromise, we could say that, let's go with Dylan and his dad agreed to compromise on when Dylan would mow the lawn. So you see Dylan out there cutting the grass. Him and his dad, they made a compromise. Our next word is democracy. So in a democracy, it is important for people to vote during an election because those people pick who their leader is in that type of government, in a democracy. Eventually, this one will probably be one of the easiest ones to come up with sentences for, but we could say that Olivia knew that eventually the cold weather would go away and it would become warmer. It will eventually. We might have to wait a little bit longer. Nope. Okay. Legislation. That one's a very governmenty word. So we could say that Congress passed legislation protecting workers who are injured on the job. So this legislation or these laws will help protect people who may get hurt and need some help. Privilege is kind of another one. That one's another tough one. So a good example here is my grandmother feels that going out to dinner with her family once a week is a privilege. Ooh, my goodness. Let's go back there and do that again. With her family is, once a week is a privilege she deserves. I'm going to reread that from the beginning to make sure we understand. So my grandmother feels that going out to dinner with her family once a week is a privilege she deserves. She thinks that that's something that is a special right that she should have. And our last one is version. So we could say for this version of the movie Cinderella, we had to wear 3D glasses. I don't really know what would be 3D in Cinderella, but in this version, you need some glasses. Okay? Sorry about that. So these are going to be our vocabulary words. We're going to work with these, practice them. We will print out the words for you so you can see them. I just want to end with playing a quick little video about our essential question, why we need government.
Our government. Why do we need government? The greatest role of a government is to protect the public. In our democracy, everyone can take an active role in government. For example, the court system depends on a jury of citizens to listen carefully to the evidence. They have to come to a decision about the guilt or innocence of the defendant. Police officers protect citizens every day. They work to prevent and solve crimes. They also help if something bad happens, such as a car accident. When something bad does happen, such as an accident or a fire, first responders race to help those in need. Firefighters and ambulance crews are government workers whose job it is to help the people in your community stay safe and healthy. Our government works to protect us every day.
All right, so that's kind of where I'm going to leave you. We're going to go ahead and get started on our first story. See you guys soon.